What's up, Math 8? Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Math with Mullins. Today we're looking at 3.4 Day 2, how to not only solve multi-step inequalities, but also how to write them. So we're going to see a lot of word problems, but that's okay. We're going to make sure we focus on what they all mean, how to set them up, and then just refresh how to solve them. So our main objectives are to write and solve those multi-step inequalities. Before we go on any further, we want to talk about the two terms that you're going to see the most often here. The first one being at least, and the second one being at most. At least is going to mean greater than or equal to. Okay? For example, your shirt is at least $15. That means it could be 15 or 16, 17, 18, etc., right? So at least means greater than or equal to that number. At most means less than or equal to. Okay, so when we have at most, that's like saying, I always try to get my students to think about how you could use this in a sentence when you ask your parents for money. Mom, I need at most $20 to buy some school supplies. When you say at most $20 for school, that means your mom is thinking, okay, I need to know it's 20 or less than that. It could be 19, it could be 18, it could be 17, etc. Okay, so at most and at least are two different things. And sometimes it's easier to think about them in a sentence. Hey, Mom, my shirt at school for my team is going to be at least $15. So that means your mom or dad are going to be thinking, okay, I'm going to spend $15 or more. That means it's greater than or equal to. And just keep in mind, greater than or equal to looks like this, whereas less than or equal to looks like that. Remember we talked about that being just a squished L for less than or equal to? If you didn't have time yet, pause this video here, write these two things down, and when you're ready to go on, click play. All right, here is our first example, and we do want to be very cautious here because we do see a percentage, so we're going to talk about the importance of changing a percentage to a decimal to get an accurate description or get an accurate answer. One sales job pays a base pay of $200 each week, and base pay just means you're going to get $200 no matter what. And then plus a commission of 2%. And if you've never heard of commission, this is basically sales driven. The more you sell, the more money you're going to make. So commission is a great way that some stores or some like car salesmen, if you're in the sales industry, this is a way that they kind of reward their sales associates and help them sell the product of the company that they're making. How much in sales do you need if you want to make at least 500 this week? So there's your keyword, at least, meaning greater than or equal to 500. So that's what I would start with first. I want greater than or equal to $500 this week. It does say I start with a base pay of $200 plus a commission of 2%. Now we're not going to write 2% as just the number 2 because that's a percentage. We're going to write it as the decimal format, which is 0.02. Okay. The one thing you need to remember is you're automatically getting paid $200 no matter what, but you get paid 2% based on how much you sell. So that 2% is actually going to have the X with it because we don't know how much we're going to sell. So that is the unknown. That's what the variable is. This is what I need to figure out. How much should I sell if I want to make at least $500? So that was step 1, writing down your inequality. Now we're going to do step 2, which is solving it. The first thing I'm going to do is break apart that 200 to join over here with the 500. When I do that, all that's left is my 0.02x, my 2% commission, at least $300. So what do I need to sell to make it at least $300 in commission? Next, it looks like I need to divide by 0.02. So I'm just doing 300 divided by 0.02, and I get X is greater than or equal to $15,000. Now, this is true for this situation. Some agencies might give you a higher commission. So if you're interested in sales, always ask before you sign your contract, hey, how much am I going to get paid in commission? It might be very easy for this company to sell $15,000. Maybe this is, a car salesman or a dealership. So those prices of cars are going to be 15 grand or higher. But if this was maybe just a shoe store that your shoes aren't costing a lot of money, you'd have to sell a lot here. So just be wary and be knowledgeable about what your commission can make you. The next one, you spend $25 on supplies for making cookies. Notice it says when you spend $25, that means you're taking away $25. You make 10 dozen cookies, and if you want to make at least $50, how much should you charge for 1 dozen cookies? So right now, I'm seeing two different things. At least $50 means I want greater than or equal to $50 in my bank account. Then it says, how much should I charge for the dozen cookies? I know that I made 10 dozen, but I don't know how much I'm charging for them. So that would mean I need to see 10x, okay? And then I'm going back to the very beginning. It said I spent $25 on supplies. So that means I automatically should see a minus 25 in my inequality. So step one is this. 10 times x, meaning my 10 dozen cookies times how much, minus 25 to make at least $50 from this. That's why I see the greater than or equal to 50 all by itself. Let's begin. The first thing I'm going to do is add 25 to both sides. So in order to get that at least $50, I'm adding that $25 to each side. So now I'm having 10x is greater than or equal to $75. This would just now be my last step of dividing by 10. You should get a decimal here. X is greater than or equal to 7.5. So this is greater than or equal to $7.50. Okay. Now, I wanted to show you a quick way of how you can maybe check your work here. It says I'm selling them for $7.50 at a minimum. So that means I'm doing 10 dozen times $7.50 minus $25 should allow me to get $50. If you type this in the calculator, 10 times 7.50 is 75, and $75 minus the $25 that you spent, you still get $50 in your pocket. So you know that that would be correct. Okay. Our last one, we'll maybe take the time to pause the video here, see if you can write and solve this one on your own. And when you are ready to check it, go ahead and click play. All right, last one. You bought a pop at the concession stand for $1.50. Candy is $75 each. How many candies can you buy if you only have $12? Now, I didn't give you the key phrase of at least or at most, but you should understand if you have $12 in your pocket, what are all the opportunities and what are all the ways that you can sell this? What are all the ways that you can spend that? If I only have $12, that means I can spend $12 or less. So that means I need to see the less than or equal to symbol and then the number 12. Okay? Then I need to figure out how am I supposed to set this up. I know my mystery number is candy. How many candies can I buy? So let's go ahead and start with that one. That one should say 75 cents with the X. The one thing I need to make sure of is I'm adding the $1.50 with that to get my total. Okay? If you didn't know that you were supposed to add $1.50 to that, think about what you would do to solve this. If you start with $12, you're going to have to subtract your $1.50 that you bought at the concession stand. So because I'm subtracting it from 12, that means I would initially wanted to see the addition, right? Right. So let's go ahead and subtract $1.50 from both sides. These $1.50s will cancel out, so I'll have 75 cents X is less than or equal to 12 minus $1.50 is going to give us $10.50. Okay, the last step, I will divide both sides by 0.75 So $10.50 divided by 0.75 says I can buy less than or equal to 14 candies. So less than or equal to 14 candies. Okay, there it is. Hopefully what we talked about here helped you a little.